All right, good morning, everybody. So you'll need two blocks and possibly two blankets for today's practice. One of those blankets can be on your mat, and the second one can be rolled. We're going to do a fairly intense yin hip opening practice. So we'll give it a go with a blanket roll to start in the chest, and then Baddha Konasana in your legs. So one of those blankets can be rolled so you get a little chest opening. You could, of course, not do that if you would prefer to just be flat to the floor. I almost always practice yin on a blanket, so that's kind of my preference, but you don't have to do that. And then you'll come to drop in for a couple minutes in the Supta Baddha Konasana, and you can use your blocks to support the outer knees if you want. But since this is yin, you could just let gravity do its thing. So maybe have them close by in case you decide to sneak them in. And then start to recline back onto your blanket roll if you're using that to catch the upper back shoulder blades. And we'll take the first couple of minutes to get into the body and the breath here. Settle for a few moments. So allow for the chest to spread and the inner leg to open. And see about dropping right into, as best you can, stillness, quiet. And starting to feel into your body, where you might be able to let go right away in your first shape. And then see about going right into the breath. Feeling the body move as you breathe. And allowing your awareness to kind of hone right there. Keeping the awareness tethered to the breath. And or the sensation of the pose. So even though we're going to use time, some props, and gravity to help us, body weight to help us create space. Sometimes yin gets this like, it's a passive practice, which since we're not muscularly engaging, it certainly could be. But could it be active in the process of your awareness? Could you keep a gentle, present, maybe point on your body, what you feel, on your breath? And that's a handy mind tool, so we'll attempt to utilize that today as we practice. So let's take maybe another 5, 6 breaths here. You get softer, maybe fuller in your breath. After maybe your next exhale or so, just gently encourage those knees rather to come to neutral, or maybe knock the knees and widen the feet. Give your hips a moment to internally rotate. And then you can roll from your back through a side. So let's roll to the left. And you can keep your blanket roll. If you don't have one, you'll want to make one. And that blanket roll is going right on the outer left glutes hip. And you'll come down onto your left side. This is a little bit more myofascial, maybe movement release to start. So I have like my left arm kind of tucked under. And of course, you don't have to move, but you could bring in a block if the floor feels too far there for the upper body. But we're on the left outer hip, possibly rolling towards like the left outer glutes. You might find yourself kind of rolling back. You might find some enjoyment in rolling forward, so more on the front of the hip, front of the thigh. So I'll give you a couple of minutes here to either just kind of dig, move around, or if there's like a particular sticky spot, you just want to like chill there, be still there. You could just land and put your breath into what you feel. And so your choice on this particular side lying position. And try to keep your breath moving so the breath isn't held or labored while you try to make space in the left outer hip. Notice if you're clamping your jaw or biting your tongue. You stick with softness there as you find any final space here. Last minute. All right, take your time and come through maybe like side lying, or you can kind of press up to a more neutral shape, whatever you need to kind of center yourself before we go the other way. So I'm just side lying Tadasana for a beat. We'll eventually make our way to that right outer hip though. So flipperoo through the belly or the back. And land for starters, the right outer hip buns on your blanket roll. And you can stay more upright. I don't think I said that on the first side with like the right forearm down. But all the way sideline, maybe if that's not too uh, intense, maybe right arm kind of tucks like a pillow, or you come down like true sideline Tadasana. And then same thing, we're on for 3 minutes here. So you can kind of land, let the weight drop right on that right outer hip, your side. If you're called to dig a little, you could start some journey rolling of the body maybe back. So towards like your right back bun, center of the glute there. You also might find some joy in rolling forward, so getting at more of the front of the hip. And again, it's just like, how can I get into a space where you create some maybe opening, releasing of tension in this particular area while staying soft, fluid in the breath, easy in the face. Last minute here, can you continue to breathe fully, softly, eking out any remaining space in the right outer hip, glutes, front of the hip. Letting this be a little bit more body-led. You feel like you're about even. You can make a journey towards your belly. So roll slowly towards the belly. Hopefully that blanket roll will catch you in a position that's like right in line or close with the front of the pelvis. You can adjust it if you need to. We're just taking a couple of breaths here in the center. Nice full couple of breaths on the belly. And then you'll slide your hands in line with your chest. We'll press up from here, so tuck your toes. Come on up here. And then blanket roll, it might need some re-fluff, so you smooshed it pretty good during your first work with it. You might have to re-roll. And then take the blanket and put it on the backs of the heels. So just above the heel rather. And then we're gonna come down into a child's pose. So you can use a block here, but blanket for now on the lower setting of the legs. And then fold forward. You can have your arms nice and loose if you want to, up overhead, or you could do the arms down by the sides. The blanket makes for a nice little catch there of the backs of the hands, so you could try that. Get a little back body spread here, a couple of minutes in the child's pose. And once you're into the shape, can you become still? At least for now, we'll continue working with that blanket in a moment, but can you drop in, feel the shape? And then find your breath in the shape and how the breath moves while you're here. And then can you stay present? So in presence of shape breath. Last couple of breaths here. All right, walk your hands forward and then walk them back to lift your spine. And then you'll have to bow a little bit forward to get this blanket roll high up behind the knees. And we'll start our calf, back of the leg, hip opening. So your blocks are close. You could certainly use those to come upright, alleviating maybe some of the pressure in your Vajrasana variation here. So tops of the feet long, attempting to stack your head right over your pelvis. And then much like the work that we did on the side, you can certainly consider, some movement side to side, some subtle digging into maybe one side. Try to be soft. So a couple of minutes here. And find your breath. Go for a few more breaths in this first setting. Keeping the eyes, jaw, face really soft. And then we'll come forward and we'll go for like mid-calf. So come down a little bit to like the thickest part of your lower leg muscles. So middle-ish, maybe slightly high, slightly above the middle-ish of the lower leg. And then again, sit, attempting to stack head right over pelvis. And you could certainly just be still, sit right in the center, close your eyes, breathe. If you're feeling called to a little movement side to side, you could certainly do that with intention. 2 minutes here. Find your breath. Last couple of breaths. All right, come forward. Last piece, you'll go back to where we had it in the child's pose, but this time you'll tuck your toes under. So coming into the broken toe, and then blanket between just above the heels and the underside of the bun there, and then attempting to stack up your spine. Blocks are there if you need them. 2 minutes. Seated, and again, just like get in, be still, breathe. Or if there's some subtle movement that calls, as long as that feels like it's intentional and not like a run away from sensation, escape. Perhaps some movement is useful here. Breathe. Last couple breaths here. All right, come forward. Move your blocks, move your blanket roll. Slide that out to the side. And then we'll take a down dog, but be careful if you've got your blanket on your mat plus socks. So just be aware of the possible slip slide. And take a few breaths to move in a dog for a second, and then we'll move into a little more traditional yin shapes. So a couple breaths, dog, some movement there if it calls to you. And then we'll find dog two, step forward with the right leg. So from your dog, step your right foot up. You come into a lunge. You'll drop your left knee low. And we're gonna come up for this dragon. So depending on how tall you are and what blocks you have, you might consider propping the right half of your pelvis with one of your tall blocks. So the right half of the pelvis has a place to root and then come up to the right thigh. Back toes can be tucked or untucked. I'll leave that up to you. And you might need more than one block under the right half if you like how that support feels. And we'll land more upright here for 2 minutes. You can keep your hands on your thigh, or if you want a little more in the chest, you might be able to clasp opposite forearms behind you. Not requiring a whole lot of muscular effort to do that. And so get into the shape. Find your breath in the shape. And then try to keep that tether to right here. Soft eyes, soft jaw. Last couple of full deep breaths here. All right, release your arms if they're behind you. You can move your block from that right half of the pelvis, bring your hands down, and then pull the right foot back so that your right heel, or your right knee rather, starts to head past your right toes. So we're going for a pretty intense right heel, maybe calf, lower leg stretch, plus front of left hip opening. So left leg nice and extended there, and then you'll kind of drape yourself over this right leg. You can do blocks, maybe hands to blocks or forearms to blocks, attempting to get the right heel to root, but without, of course, forcing. You can drape and drop the head here, so more of like a sleeping dragon shape. Again, 2 minutes. See if you can get in and find your breath. Last couple of full deep breaths here. Stay with it. All right, back out of there. Slowly. And we got one more piece here. So you can move your blocks. Tuck your left toes, lift your left knee for a sec. And then you're going to turn all 10 of your toes to the right. So you're on like the outer edge of your left foot. And then you'll start to slowly lower into a confused pigeon shape. And your blanket and possible sock situation might mean this right foot's going to slide away from you. So maybe ditch a sock, or you can use your right hand to kind of hold that foot there. And then you can stay on your left hand for just a few breaths to kind of enjoy sinking the left side waist, let the left shoulder shrug. So we get a little side opening here. And then you can push the left hand straight. So just 1 or 2 times, kind of more upright, confused pigeon. And then in time, you want to actually stay. That feels really great. Shrugged left shoulder, left side waist gets all the space. You could chill there for a while. Or in time, get a little more time with this one, you could come down to like your left forearm and land there, or start some movement potentially. So a little bit more free form here. Big hip opener. Certainly a pretzel-y shape. Find your breath. We're on for 3 minutes. Been in for probably a minute already, so. And see if you can allow the body to kind of lead the way here. Find your breath. Last minute or so here, confused pigeon. You're on your forearm or forearms, you're pretty low inside that right foot. You can work your way back up to your left hand and just carefully push there to lift your hips. You can kind of turn back through your lunge and then down dog carefully on your blanket here, or maybe a child's pose, just something in the middle before we do all that on the other side. All right, left foot steps. We start with the upright dragon. So left heel starts above the knee. You can drop your right knee low. Scoot that right knee back a bit so you get a nice long right thigh. And then if you like a block or two under the left half of your pelvis, you can bring that in. And then start to bring the spine up. Once you're there, you can keep your hands on the left thigh if you did that on the first side, or maybe cross opposite forearms behind you. A little bit of bonus in the chest there if you want it. Drop heavy into the hips here. Find your breath. Last couple of deep breaths here. And then release the hands, calm down. And move your block if it's under the left half there. You'll drag your left heel back, so we come into a kind of like a malasana lunge, or the sleeping version of a sleeping dragon. So left knee heads past the toes, right thigh gets all the length, and then you've got your blocks maybe to be able to drape towards, attempting to root the left heel, but of course not forcing there. And then you can drape and drop if you want in the head, maybe a little rounding in the spine. So you choose there. And we're on for 2 minutes here. Find your breath. Stay with it here, soft jaw, last couple breaths. Take your time, go slow. Lift up, shift back. And then you can move your blocks and we'll tuck the right toes, lift the right knee. And you'll turn all 10 of your toes to the left. You can walk your right hand a little bit forward. So all 10 toes face the left. You're on the outer edge of that right foot. And then start to make a slow descent into a confused pigeon. And your right hand has got the maybe plant for the first little bit here so that you can sink the right sideways and get a little side stretch. You want. Got 3 minutes here, so kind of play with what feels best. You can start to lower at any point, twist at any point. So a couple of breaths to explore your second side confused pigeon. Last maybe 30 seconds or so on the side. All right, when you feel even, come back up to your right hand and lift the right side. You can turn back through a lunge shape. And then maybe one last time here, down dog or something symmetrical. And then lower to your knees and lower to your belly. So coming into the Sphinx pose, forearms underneath you, and your maybe head can be upright for a while, or you could certainly do head to block. Feet about hip width or so here. And you've got about 3 minutes or so. So you could spend part of that time upright or in time bow forward. I'll leave it up to you as to whether or not you want to bend your knees. That will likely bring a little more back bend sensation into this. So your call. Find your breath. Last minute here. You've got your knees bent, you can lengthen your legs. And if the head's down, start to lift up in the spine. And then you can lower and roll to your back. On your way there, make sure you've got a block or two close by. So we're gonna come into kind of a funky final shape that involves a twist, which hopefully sounds pretty good right about now. So come to your back, bend your knees, and then let's just make sure there's a block over to the left-ish. You'll have to kind of play with the placement of it here shortly. And then cross your right ankle over your left thigh. We'll squeeze in for a figure four shape to start. Bring the hands around the left shin or back of the left thigh. Just gently squeeze. Couple breaths here. You can rock some side to side. And then release your grip so you can do a slight little transfer of your hips to the right and then drop your figure four shape to the left, not yet involving that block. Right foot on the floor. If it works, you'll grab the front of your right ankle with your left hand and start to twist, dig those elbows down and start to turn belly, chest from the left to the right. For the first little bit here, you could do like a right loose O arm. That doesn't bother the shoulder. Drop the head to the right if you want. So this could be a pretty lovely place to stay for 2 or 3 minutes. The second stage would be to walk your left foot up towards your right hip and reach your right hand down for your inner left foot. So that'd be like stage 2. Pretty juicy, still twisting to the right. You've got feet to hold on to maybe. Or final flourishes, you straighten your right leg, landing on that block, and I can just get my right big toe with my left hand for the cat grabbing tail pose. Shows up in the yin tradition. So that's a pretty big ask. But we did a lot of hip stuff to get somewhat there. So see about the possibility. And if not, come back to the previous step. So figure four thigh stretch or the figure four first position. And then draw the belly, breathe. Draw the belly from the left to the right. Let's try to hang for another minute or so here. All right, carefully let go of your limbs, whatever you've got. Bring yourself back to center. Take a moment to bend the knees, pick the pelvis up, and maybe plop pelvis 2 or 3 times right in the center. Couple sacrum drops. And then final side, left ankle, right thigh. Start with your figure four. You're going to go for that supported shape with the block. You can move it over to the right. And then squeeze in gently, right thigh to chest. Little shifty side to side here if you want. And then release your grip and shift the hips a little left before you take your feet to the right. So left foot lands on the floor over there. And then stage one is like right hand, left ankle, dig elbows and twist. Right to left here. Left arm can do like that loose O shape. Drop your head to the left. That might feel pretty nice for a while. Or the whole time. Certainly stay there. Step two is that right foot has to journey up. So you start to walk your right foot towards your left hip and grab maybe left hand, right inner foot for the figure four. Thigh stretch, twist. Belly down, rotate to the left. Stage two, and stay with that, or you start to straighten your left leg. Bonus, if you have a wall to push into, that's handy. Maybe left inner foot to that block so your foot is in line with your hip. And then you've got the cat grabbing tail, maybe with a straightish left leg. I can't quite get my foot on that side, so I'm just using my block and my wall and reaching my right hand as if I could get my left foot. Draw the belly from the right to the left regardless. We'll spend a final minute here. Breathe. When you feel like you're even, start to get out of there. Take your time. Resume your center position, maybe a couple lifts, pelvic drops in the center. If you like that feel of centering. And then I vote either knees to chest, apanasana, find a little squeeze, or supported bridge. And you can decide if that's a good place to land for your shava. I don't know if I'll ever get used to teaching an hour. This goes by so fast. I'm so used to 75 minutes. All right, so a couple minutes just to chill. That can be in a symmetrical shape of your choosing. I'm going to do the supported bridge. You're welcome to do that as well if you would like. Block under pelvis. Straight legs, bent legs, whatever feels good, and we'll just drop, close the eyes. So if you'd like to stay in your shape here, resting for longer, you can always do that. If you're ready for some shift movement, maybe exit the bridge shape if you're there. We'll make our way from our backs to a seat. Try to go slow and keeping the eyes soft, head heavy in that transition up. You're welcome to support your seat here as we close our yin practice. Taking maybe note of how those hips feel after our exploration of kind of 360, the full hip, and checking in with how you feel after a practice where there's maybe more quiet, less cueing, more opportunities to be sort of internal, getting a good sense of that landscape, body, breath, mind. And as always, I hope we can use this and take it with us. So hands at heart if you want to join there, and a small bow, head to hands in gratitude to this practice and to each other. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Have a great Monday, a good week, and I will see you all very soon. Bye, guys. Take good care.